Hello, my name is Amna Mirza, and today I will present my research called Empower Reading Intervention, an experimental approach to remediate reading disabilities among at-risk population. The basic features of reading disabilities are significant impairments in the development of reading accuracy, fluency, comprehension, and spelling skills. Further looking at the profiles of children who experience reading difficulties show that children in high poverty urban schools and who belong to low familial social economic status, along with underrepresented ethnic groups such as African Americans and Hispanics, have the highest rate of reading disabilities. Overall, children with reading disabilities show weak awareness of spoken words, sound structure, and ability to make phonological representations in memory, but there is little evidence that these deficits are inherent to any of the risk groups listed above, such as SES or low SES and a specific ethnic group. Before I go further into identifying and discussing some remediation to these reading disabilities, I'm going to name these skills again, where these disabilities affect the most. And those are slow or impaired development of word level reading accuracy, word level fluency, comprehension, and spelling skills, which cannot be accounted for by low IQ, visual perception problems, neurological damage, or poor educational opportunities. Struggling readers usually fall behind their peers as early as the beginning of grade 1 and often need intervention to overcome reading difficulties and avoid future reading failures. Studies have shown that children who attend intervention programs to remediate the problem showed effect sizes in moderate to large range when attended the program for nearly 100 hours per school year. Further analysis also showed that these effect sizes were larger in the kindergartners and grade 1 students as compared to upper elementary grades, which gives a hint of early identification and intervention implementation. If we widen the range to test the children by age within the same group mentioned above on their reading skills, reveal that very few middle and high school students read proficiently according to their grade level. Among those groups who experience reading disabilities or difficulties are the one who belong to low SES and a specific ethnic group. And now I'm going to discuss both separately, both of the factors. So the first one is SES. Numbers taken from many studies show that children's performance on reading measures were drastically low in high poverty urban schools where ninth graders were only able to read sixth or seventh grade level, and for ethnicity, our other factor, showed significant differences as an average African American or Hispanic 12th grader read at the same level as a Caucasian 8th grader. So the implementation of early intervention for reading difficulties has been shown to be even more beneficial to children who are at high risk of reading disabilities. Among high-risk population, not only that the children from low SES experience delayed letter recognition and phonological sensitivity, which puts them at high risk for reading difficulties. There are other factors which impact too, and one of them is family and home environment, which contribute directly or which directly influence language and literacy development. So do their schools and neighborhoods, which react in an active reciprocal way. Our second factor is social environmental surroundings that impact children's reading development and which are available resources, reading activities, and climate and quality of social relationship, for example, parent-child, teacher-child, and peer-to-peer interactions. So the success or failure in language and literacy development is not only the reflection of children themselves, but also of their experiences, their interactions, resources from their surroundings. Therefore, early identification of children who are at high risk of reading disabilities in order to bring their reading growth up to sufficient level is the most important and crucial step in reading research. Just to finalize our overall literature we discussed in this presentation is that differences in socioeconomic status in children's reading and educational outcomes are universal, persistent, and very well addressed in literature, which brings us to our present study. This study utilized empowered reading as a remedial effort within a population that shared all risk factors mentioned earlier, SES and underrepresented ethnic group. Children in this study were selected from the New Haven, Connecticut Public School as part of the New Haven Lexicon Project. Our sample was divided into two groups, intervention or treatment group and control group. To attain a control group with initial equivalency to intervention group at the pre-intervention time point, propensity score matching was conducted. This utilizes the complete group of untreated cases to determine which case is the closest match to the intervention case based on several specified selection criteria, which is mentioned above here on the slide. The reading measures completed at the beginning of the school year were chosen as the pre-test measures used to ensure group equivalency at the time point prior to the intervention. And those five factors or variables were age at the reading assessment, Tower sight word and phonetic decoding, and Woodcock-Johnson word identification and word attack. And in the end, we were able to get 92 children in each group, control and treatment. Then we have our experimental measures and analyses. So children were tested on 5 experimental measures at 4 time points to test the effectiveness of the implemented intervention. A growth curve analysis was conducted on these measures, which were letter sound, sound combination, keyword test, transfer word test, and challenge word test. And their detail is discussed on the next 5 slides, where I'm going to show you their findings as well. So the first one is letter sound. Participants were shown a total of 29 individual letters or letter combinations, one at a time, and were asked to tell the sound that letter or letter combination makes. These items targeted the sounds that the individual letters of the alphabet can make, and some of the letters had more than one sound. Therefore, children had to tell all of the relevant sounds letter A and I make, or other letters who have more than one sounds. The highest a participant could score on this task was 37, and you can see their examples from before and after intervention right at the top of your slide. Our next task was sound combination. These are letters that occur together in English that have unique pronunciations. These include vowel digraphs such as EE, OA, AI, IGH, diphthongs such as OO, OI, OU, vowel control consonants such as GE, GI, CE, CI, R, and I controlled vowels and high frequency bound morphemes such as ing and shun. And you can see the examples from before and after intervention performance from the kids. Here, our third task was keyword test, which was consisted of small to medium letter string words that with an increasing level of difficulty. These were a selection of the list of 120 words trained in Empower that represent 90% of the spelling patterns in English language. These words were backbone of the word identification strategies taught in the program, and you can again look at the examples here right at the top of your slide, where children performance before intervention is shown, and the words are, or some of the examples from those words are them, baby, and rock. And after intervention, they were able to read flew, file, scream, and words like that. Our next task was transfer words. Which was derived from transforming the onset vowel and final consonant of a taught empower keyword, such as taught keyword pig was presented as pug in transfer word test. Some more examples are yes and net, let and went, fun and fuzz, car and cab, and rock and mock. Tested transfer words were restricted from instructional materials, and as such is a test of near transfer. You can see the examples here right at the top from before and after. Our last task was challenge words, which were instructed multisyllabic words that are decodable using the 5-word instructional strategies taught in Empower. Each word was tested with a generous time limit to allow children to apply the strategies for reading the word. And again, you can look at the examples from before and after here. Children were able to read flopped, limping, sets sort of word right at the beginning, and then they were able to read after, extent, peppery, unemployment sort of words at the end of their intervention. Next, we have outcome measures. Children from both groups were tested twice on these measures, once before intervention and once after intervention or finishing the intervention. And the measures were for decoding, they were tested on WJ word ID word attack. For reading fluency, they were tested on sight word reading and phonetic decoding, phonological awareness, lesion blending, phonological processing, RAN, letters and digits, and then Woodcock-Johnson reading fluency, passage comprehension, and Gray oral reading task. Our final analyses between groups, control and treatment, showed significant differences between both groups. Same is the finding for within subject effect, where we had significant main effect of time and significant interaction between time and treatment when children were tested based on time 1 and time 2. Here are some of the graphs taken from our analyses. For each of the outcome measure, the pink line shows children's performance from treatment group, and the blue line shows children's performance on the in the control group. And you can see almost all of the measures except elision, which I'm going to show you next, and the comprehension measure. Children in treatment group outperformed children in control group. So here is a brief overview of all those analyses or findings I just discussed on my previous slide. So this is the one where we didn't see any gain or any significant difference between control and treatment group. Here, our last one is for the comprehension measure. Finally, from our results section, this slide depicts the effect sizes for comparing intervention or treatment versus control skill gains during the intervention period. Effect sizes are ordered from greatest to least, as you can see from the right-hand side. That has the smallest effect size shown on the graph, with 95% confidence interval for the effect. Reliable effects were observed for all outcome variables except comprehension and phonological awareness task, as I mentioned before on the slides where I showed you the graphs. The greatest effects were observed for single word decoding, with lower but still substantial effects observed for measures of rate and fluency, as you can see in the middle here. To summarize our findings, children showed significant growth on sound symbols and keywords. Growth line on the challenge and transfer words suggested that the children developed skill to decode words they hadn't learned previously, and this is, I'm talking about the treatment group and their findings. When compared to a control group drawn from non-intervention schools, substantial differences emerged on standardized word reading measures. This is between both groups, and post hoc analysis indicated no difference in effectiveness for those with or without any of the risk factors. So finally, our findings suggest that early identification and intervention with explicit instructions on core area of reading can help with remediation of reading disabilities among children who are at high risk of reading failures. Which brings us to our closing statement, which is a question or a question for future recommendations. Whether the specific skills taught at this stage during the intervention facilitate higher level reading acquisitions, such as reading comprehension. Thank you.